of the 1973-74 season. As well as being an outstanding footballer, he probably created a record that Boro fans and clubs and many other clubs will never see again. Made 358 consecutive appearances for Boro. That's more or less the equivalent of about 8 consecutive seasons without missing a game. In a time probably when footballers weren't afforded much protection from the officials and anything sort of went on the football field. As well as being a top quality player, he played for England 3 times, but he was a real gentleman if you had the privilege to meet him. Really great man. And like I say, everyone at Boro Fan TV sends their condolences to David's family and friends. I'm sure Jack Charlton's up there with a number 11 shirt waiting for you, David. Okay. Right, on to present matters. Boro at the weekend, still searching for the first victory of the season. It's not started how we hoped for, Boro fans, has it? Please get in touch with us tonight. Let us know what you think. What needs to be done to rectify things on the pitch for Boro this season? On a brighter note, Boro have made another signing. Rodrigo Munez joined the club yesterday on a season-long loan from Fulham. So we'll talk about that and other transfer issues, as well as previewing the weekend's big game now, huge game at the Riverside against Swansea City. Joining me to do all this tonight on the show are David Campbell and Damon LaRoche. Thanks again for joining us, lads.
Cheers, mate. Always a pleasure.
Great to see you both, boys. So, obviously, we'll talk about the weekend's game, lads. Reading. There's been question marks across the pitch, mainly originally centering on the centre forward area, David. But I mean, whatever centre forwards we had out on Saturday, they were going to struggle with the service they received. Did you feel sorry for our forwards on Saturday, David?
Yeah, I did, to be fair. I know Watmore had his injury. He said he couldn't have played in a consecutive game, but arguably it was his best game against Stoke, and I was disappointed that he'd swapped it around. You know, you want to see continuity. You want to see it continue and get a run of games. And when he was taken out, I struggled to see us creating much with Fours by himself. And McGree doesn't offer that in behind, unfortunately. But it was very disappointing overall, really. And we were back to square one.
Yeah. Before I move on to another part of the team, David, Darren Miller's got in touch. Thanks, Darren. And he said with regards to the forwards, he believes that Wilder has to take some of the blame for not getting team selection right or tactics, but he also thinks that Force and Hoppy are a waste of money and their goal-scoring records are horrendous. What do you make of that? Is it far too soon to judge these lads?
I can see where he's coming from, but it is far too early to judge. It was something I touched upon a couple of weeks ago with a few of my friends. We're signing strikers who haven't got a goal-scoring record, and you could put Rodrigo Muniz in this record, in that category as well. He scored 5 goals last year, but he's a big risk. And what we've been saying for the past 2-3 seasons, we haven't been scoring enough goals and we haven't got clinical finishers. The signings we're signing at the moment highlight that, and that is a massive risk. And that, I think, when these guys are project signings, we can't afford project signings at the moment. If we're looking to get up, we need proven and tested players for this league.
Yeah. David Olsen, thanks for watching, pal. He said it's too soon to judge. They're still both fairly young, so plenty of time to shine. Ben Thornton's also mentioned there. He thinks it's about the delivery to the forwards, and that's not allowing them to produce the goods as it stands this season so far. Damon, in terms of the service to players in midfield, I thought definitely on Saturday there was a lack of creativity and a lack of drive from that midfield. Did that surprise you?
It did, yeah. I think suspectly Johnny Howson was caught out, but I think most of the team were on Saturday. I mean, I just think Reading nullified us from the off, especially as I said, the midfield, and it was nice to see Crooks back in. Obviously, he needs to get more game time as well. After he's I think he was injured, wasn't he, or something? Saw the report. I just think we do need to strengthen in that area, James.
Me Mickey Bell said we could have got 11 people off our coach on Saturday and they would have played better. I saw there was a wry smile on your face there, David, where I mentioned about creativity and drive from midfield. Do you want to explain?
Yeah, I'm not for one living in the past, really, but I think this proves a lot to the fans who are whinging about Tavernier. I can understand his end product, but the drive and energy he gives you in midfield and drives you up that pitch it can't be taken for granted. And I knew as soon as we sold him, we didn't replace him. Mowat isn't a like-for-like replacement, no matter what anybody's saying. He doesn't offer what Tavernier does. I still think Mowat will be a good player, but in terms of, I think he will be a good acquisition. But in terms of what Tav offered, even if you take the goals and assists away, his work rate just pushed us up, and we created more chances because of his high press. And I just don't see any of our midfield having that high pressing energy. And if we don't get that right, I think teams will just bombard us in midfield. And when you lose your midfield battle, 9 times out of 10, you do lose that game. So I think it's vital we get someone. I think if you take the goals away from Crooks, you've got a bang average midfielder. For how tall he is, he doesn't win headers. He gets goals from set pieces, but if you take the goals away from him, I think you've got a bang average midfielder. We really, really need some creativity in there, and especially someone who can give Howson. He's talking 1 centre midfielder. I think you're talking 2. And then you're looking at the Piero deal now, send him on loan. That seems even more strange.
Yeah. Tony Johnson said there the midfield is lacking a strong presence at the moment. Maybe a Grant Ledbetter type player. Neil Cowan, who was at the match on Saturday, said he felt sick to the stomach. Created nothing till a late header on 78 minutes against a very poor Reading side.
On that, James, he's saying about very poor Reading side, and I completely agree. I thought everybody was talking midweek about how good we looked against Stoke. Stoke are a bang average championship team. So I wasn't getting too over the top of that performance against Stoke because they are bang average, and I think they will struggle this year.
Yeah. And I think in a way with this and Reading, they're saying that they were average, and they've won 3 out of 3 at home, but they were just very well organised, I thought, on Saturday, and we didn't have the answers to break them down. I mean, it's down to us, and I think what doesn't help Damon is when you're giving goals away, like we are at the minute, giving a lot of teams in games a head start and letting them take the lead, and then you're chasing the game, aren't you?
You are. You're right. You're exactly right. It's giving them goals away in defence, and I would have in past seasons we've never had a shady defence. We've always been rock solid with like your Gibsons and your Ayalas, etc. But this season, for some reason, it's not commanding enough. And I think the Boro, for me, is not a left-sided centre-back. He's not a centre-back by trade anyway. So that's why I think the desperate need is to get that left-sided centre-back in. And just to touch on the midfield situation, me and dad were talking about Danny Drinkwater being a free agent. He's a leader, isn't he? So I wouldn't mind just going in for someone like him, you know.
You don't think wages will be an issue there, Damon?
I don't think he would be. I think, like you say, if he took a pay cut to pay your player, something daft like that, you know, we could get the best out of him. You know, he did all right at Reading, didn't he, when he was there? And obviously he's a free agent now because Chelsea have released him. Yeah. So, but there's one or two positions. I mean, you could look all over the park, as we said. The whole team was a letdown on Saturday.
Yeah. Chris Sykes has mentioned there, David, about both wings were closed down. And there was nothing great in the middle, nothing in terms of creativity. I mean, I think post-match it was mentioned statistics-wise, it was 73% possession the Boro had, but didn't do a great deal with it. And Chris Wilder was pretty brutal and frank in his post-match interview when he was saying it was safe and ponderous football, and that's not what he wants to see. Is it a case of, though, is it at the minute, if you stop Isaiah Jones and Ryan Giles, you stop those, you stop the Boro creating things. I know last year we talked a lot about the reliance on Isaiah Jones. Is it a case of if you stop the flanks, we haven't got anything else at the minute?
Yeah, you could be right. Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to live with that because teams with Wilder not having a plan B and wanting to come away from that formation, we're going to come up against that quite a lot this season. Fair play to Reading. They were very organised. We had possession, but possession means nothing unless you've got an end product. And I think, like you said, if we the threat on the wings, then we've got to offer something different in the middle, and we're just not doing that. So Wilder can have as much gripe as he wants. He's the one who's not changing that formation, and he's the one who's not coming up with different answers. So I felt he was a bit harsh on the players on Saturday, in my assessment, because I think he needs to also look at himself, and that's not me just digging Wilder out, because I think he's been absolutely fantastic for this football club, and the stuff that was the performances were saying. But I think he's starting to change his tune a little bit, and it's more like their problem, not me. And I think that is a very risky place to have that. We had that under Warnock, and look how that ended.
Yeah. Alistair James has got in touch with us. Thanks for watching, Alistair. And he said he feels there's a lot of doom and gloom at the minute on this show in particular. And he said he's pleased with how things are progressing from the Warnock era, and there's been some great signs. And Saturday aside, we've played well. Do you take that on board, Dan? I mean, we have played some great football, and you're asking a lot for a massive transformation from the Pulis years, Warnock years. Now we've got Wilder, who operates in a very different way. So is it a case of that people are overreacting after 5 games? That yes, we've only got 3 points, but there's a hell of a long way to go at the season. Look at what Forest did last year, and we've just got to be very patient and let the players settle in. And as we say, still nearly 10 days left of the transfer window for the team to then settle down and see how we are, say, after 10, 12 matches.
Yeah, I think it's just that, isn't it? It's like, say, look what Forest did last season. I judge it by 10 games to 12 games into the season, and then you have a fair idea where the team is going to be or going to be positioned roundabout. But yes, 10 days left of the window. I mean, for me, Ryan Giles, he's going to be a huge player for us this season. I mean, yes, he wasn't given the opportunity on Saturday, but we know what he can do. Look at the game against Stoke and previous games in the season so far. He's been magnificent, and as I said, he will. We're relying on, I think, Jones too much on that other side. I think not enough balls are coming over to Giles on this left-hand side. When I've been at games, I think we all see different. We all see a different game, don't we, James? But for me, I say it needs to vastly improve and quick. And David's right about Wilder. He has to take some of the blame as well.
I mean, David, we spoke about the forwards, midfield. Jamie Pell's got in touch there and said about defensively. Now, at the minute, we've chopped and changed in quite a lot of games. Like Dale Fry's started 2 games, Sheffield United and Reading, and been subbed at half-time in both of them. What's your take on the situation with regards to the back 3?
Yeah, so I agree with Jamie Pell. For the time being, I think the easy option is to put McNair in there. We know he can play it. Might not be his favourite position in himself, but we know he does a good job there. Ryan Giles, as good as he's going forward, is getting exposed a lot. And our left-sided centre-back is getting exposed because of lack of Giles tracking back, which we expect from both wingers because that's how we're going to play. That's absolutely fine. But when you've not got a comfortable back 3 at the moment, you're going to be exposed. And I think McNair would slot in there. Wilder said he wants to bring players in, and he's right. We can only bring players in who are going to come straight into that starting lineup and be better than what we've got. And if that means we have to wait, then we have to wait. I'm happy to say that. The only problem is this is our 3rd season where we've done 10 signings or more, and it's just how long is it going to take to gel? We don't want to be chopping and changing all the time, season after season. And I think that's why we're struggling at the moment. So I think fans just need to be a bit more patient because it will come good. But even once we've got the signings in, don't expect it straight away. It is going to take time.
Yeah, fair point, mate. I mean, just with regards to the match on Saturday, Damon, second half, I think Chris Wilder alluded to it, was better than the first, but we didn't create a great deal. The one moment maybe of contention came towards the end of the game when Matt Crooks thought he'd won a penalty, but then was flagged for offside. What was your take on that, Damon?
Well, listening to it on the radio, I think Maddo, they were all shouting up, they were all screaming, "We've got a penalty, we've got a penalty!" And I was jumping up and down, "We've got a penalty!" And then I had to sit down dead quickly because it was given offside. And looking at it on the highlights later on tonight, it was the correct decision, really.
Right.
And then
yeah.
Hoppy, when he came on as well, just to touch on that, he didn't really create much as well. I know he's playing tonight in for the under-21s.
Yeah.
So hopefully he gets a bit more experience, and that's what the lad needs, because Wilder said he's a development player, but we want players here and now, not for development.
Yeah. Liam Wilder's got in touch with us, boys, and he said Wilder's post-match press conference was a kick up the backside for the players. And I think that's it. Again, he's very refreshing and honest in his views. And yeah, it might have upset one or two players. I know he said about certain players maybe feeling a little bit comfortable, David, being in a championship club and not really looking over the shoulders, but he's hoping that the arrival of Munez and maybe one or two others this week might make them think again and get them to knuckle down a bit. You don't want to really call out certain players, but have you got an idea of who we might have in mind there, David?
Yeah, it's hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think he means offensively. I think he means defensively.
Right.
And I think you can see that with the starting lineup. I'm not one for calling certain players out. Whoever puts on a Boro shirt, I try to back as much as possible. But one thing I would say, again, Wilders, it might be a kick up the bum, but who's the one who put that team out? If he's saying that not putting their effort in, why are you selecting him?
Fair point.
You know, and I think that's why he needs to have a look at himself. It's all well and good calling players out, but you're the one who's putting that team sheet out, and if they're not performing, I think you've got to take some responsibility yourself. And this is the first time there's been a little bit of pressure on Wilder, because we've been so fortunate of the decent football he's played. But I think once you're not getting results, people start questioning the manager and all. And at the moment, he's trying to put it all on the team, which I think is a little bit unfair.
Do you think it's fair? And I know people are will come back. The counter argument to this is, David, that it's only 5 games into the season, but then some people have thrown the stats up about, well, how many wins have we got in the last 18 games, and that things haven't been great since about March at the Boro. Do you think it's though he is trying to rebuild a whole squad here, and that, as you said, there's 10 players have come in. It is going to take time. Yeah. Do you think people just need to have a little bit of a sense of perspective about all this and say, look, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. This is a long-term project. Wilder said it's going to take him the best part of 3-4 transfer windows. Yeah. It's not just going to be bang like that and you've got the solution and we're going to go on a great run and be at the top of the table. I think a lot of people were surprised that as many have had us as favourites for promotion this year.
Yeah, a perspective does come into the rational thinking, James, but I think a lot of fans, and again, I hate to talk about the past, but a lot of fans going from last season didn't see us not finishing the playoffs. So it's still in the fans' minds that how we ended last season was a disappointment, and the speculation of Burnley. So I think that's why a lot of the fans are holding that ground and putting a bit of pressure on him. But a reality check, you're 100% right. We just need to ground ourselves, realise that, you know, where we are at in terms of the transfer window, how many we brought in and how long it's going to take to gel. I think if you start talking the end of September and we're still in the same position, Wilder can't blame the players because he's had the transfer window. He had the luxury of not having the previous transfer window as such. He had the January one, which we all know is a hard one. But he's going to be judged on this transfer window.
Okay. Steve Walker has been in touch with us here on the show, and he said results haven't been good, but we are battering teams in general. Just not got a great deal of game management, in my opinion. We need to shut up shop.
Did you say we're battering teams? I was the 90 minutes of the game we're battering teams.
I think in spells in each game, and I would even include QPR in this, not Reading though it's on Saturday, but I think in each other game we've had good spells in games. Yeah. We've had good moments in games, and we've looked good. But there's also been in every single game, and even in the game like West Brom and Sheffield United, where I thought we played very well, there was times in those games where I had my concerns, mainly about midfield. Midfield worries me at the minute, really worries me. I think we're far too open. I think it's just a soft centre to our team at the minute. And I just think in some games we've looked a little bit overrun. So
set a back three as well, I think is essential.
Yeah. So there's been things in some games that have really pleased me and really impressed me. But in every game as well, there's been something that I've thought, well, that's not right. That needs addressing. So I'm sure he will. He's, as you say, he's got a good rep in the game, and Alan Nill as well. So they'll be aware of all this, and it does take time to settle down. But
for me, I can see. I mean, I don't like to call players out, but I don't think he fancies Dale Fry. You know, I just don't. There's something about that situation that he doesn't fancy him. I mean, he hooked him early, didn't he, against Sheffield United? I just think he might be gone because he's seen Tav and he's seen Jed go, and he's thought, well, look, I deserve my chance at Premier League, so maybe he might go. But we need that. We need definitely that centre back in. But it's definitely looking at the moment. Fans have just got to be patient, as I say.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about transfers in a moment. And Steve Chapman's brought us into that nicely, Dave. And he said, it's not a 3 or 4 transfer window project. If you keep bringing in loan signings, it's a short-term fix. But is the fact that we're having to deal with loans, that's just where we're at now, isn't it? We're not going to be shelling out millions and millions on players, are we?
I would have agreed with you until we've sold 2 players for 25 million. And I think that's where that's why people are now getting a little bit annoyed. But with the loan signings, we've had to rely on that. We've took a big risk. I don't think we're in that position where we have to do it in this transfer window, and I think that's the most frustrating part. We can actually go out and put a bit of money in. I'm not saying we have to go spend 10 million on a player, but we can go. We don't have to rely on these loans. We can go put a £2 million bid or £3 million in for a player who is going to be the long-term project. Wilder said he wants people in the long term. Well, you're sort of being hypocrite there because you're saying you want a long-term project, but you're bringing in loan signings. Doesn't really fit. So I can understand why the fans are questioning that.
Okay.
I mean, I think you're only allowed. I think you're only allowed four loan signings, aren't you? I think we've made 4 loan signings.
Squad, yeah.
Yeah, 4 loan signings we made. I think you're only allowed to make 5 in a season, and then you have to buy players. So Wilder's got a dilemma to pick with that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but if he's talking about a long-term project aim and players who want in a BE, you shouldn't really be having to dip into the loan window unless you know you are.
100%, mate. 100%. It's definitely, we should be targeting players. I mean, we've got money to spend, so why not spend some of it, you know, as you said.
Arguably, in the other transfer windows previously, you could understand the loan signings because money was tight and whatnot, but we're in a good position this transfer window, so why don't we make the most of it?
Yeah. Do you think we are in a good area in terms of finances, though, Dave? Because I'm not so sure. So I just think I've come off the back of the COVID years, and I still think our wage bill's probably up there. I still don't think there's a great deal of money to spend.
I don't think there's a great deal of money to spend, as in like 10 million on Strand Larsen and one player, but I think we can reinvest in 2 or 3 million players. Other teams have got that good project where they can go spend 2 million on one player and do it and find a diamond. So why can't we? You know, we might talk about 5 players having an outlay of 10 million. I think we can afford to do that in this window of like getting 3 or 4 or 5 players for 10 million. But I'm not saying we should go blow our entire budget 20 odd million what we received in income on 2 players, which I think some fans Jed Spence, we won't have got that 15 million in one sum. That'll be installments, and that'll set us up for the next transfer window and the window after that, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a few quotes on my Twitter saying these aren't Wilder signings. I mean, I don't agree with that one whatsoever. think some of them are, in terms of Stefan and Giles and things like that. But I don't know about Hoppe. I'm not sure, but Force is definitely his signing, and Munez certainly is. And as I said, we need strengthening all over the pitch, and hopefully we'll get that come
It's
close
just,
and tended.
don't you find it interesting? I know we're going on about transfers again, but when you're coming out with strong statements, and we had this with Steve Gibson when we got relegated, when you're coming out with strong statements saying we're going to sign marquee signings, and you don't see them coming in, that's when fans get frustrated because you're building up that hope.
Yeah,
you can argue the only marquee signing we've got is Stefan at the moment because of where he's come from.
Yeah, I would agree with that, David. Definitely. I mean, I think with regards to saying who's signings who, and I know Dave Wilton has sent in a little question there saying, does Wilder have full control over who's coming in and out? I mean, it's quite interesting when he's been interviewed. He's often mentioned that himself, Kieran Scott, Neil Bowser, they're all singing from the same hymn sheet. He's quite often reiterated that they all sing from the same hymn sheet. They all know what they're after. So I'm a little bit sceptical when people say that's not a Wilder signing because I don't buy that. I think he's fully involved in all of this. And if he didn't want someone to come here, I don't think he would chase him. I really don't.
Yeah, he doesn't seem that type of bloke who will just accept anybody, does he?
No. Well, one person who has come is Rodrigo Munez, who joined yesterday. He's been on the club's radar for around about a year or so. Do you think he's going to become an integral part of the team, Damon?
I think he has to be in certainly for Saturday, for sure, because we need his creativity, and I've seen the little snippets of him on Twitter and Facebook and things like that, and YouTube, and I saw his little interview earlier on today, and he's happy to be here, and that's what I like, players that are happy to be here, that want to play for Middlesbrough Football Club, not someone who's just going to come in and take the pay and then leave at the end of it all. But I'm happy he's here, and then I think it's time for us all to get the Brazilian flags out.
All the Brazil flags and shirts will be all back out again on Saturday. Stephen Chapman again, he doesn't believe Munez is a Wilder choice because we were chasing him before he came to the club when Warnock was manager last year.
He touched upon that in his conference, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, with regards to Munez, David, how do you see him fitting into the team at the minute? Do you think he'll play off another front man? Will he be in front of a 10, or do you think it'll be both? What do you reckon? How do you think he'll play, Munez?
I think you might see him as a target man, really. Play it off him.
Yeah.
Especially until Akpom comes back. He might change that when Akpom comes back and use him a little bit differently, but we've got no presence in that box, and with his height. The only thing, I am really excited about the Muniz signing, but one thing I would say, he's untested, and that's what we're signing at the moment. We're signing a lot of strikers who are untested, and that is my biggest worry. I hope I'm completely wrong and he bangs in 20 goals, but he hasn't got the record to show that previously, and that is a worry.
Okay. And Damon, obviously there's been things with regards to centre-backs, a left-sided centre-back. Jacob Greaves, who was rumoured to be a long-term target, signed a contract with Hull City last week. In terms of the players that have been linked since then, there's been Ethan Ampadu. Now, I know he's been linked with clubs in Italy as well. Ben Gibson. The one today that's doing the rounds is Matt Clark, who was at Brighton. Do you see any of those coming in, possibly, or do you think it'll be somebody we just don't know about at the moment?
Well, I like Ethan Ampadu because I liked him when Wilder had him at Sheffield United, didn't he? And he did all right there. He didn't. I don't think he had many games. I think he had about 6 or 7 games, if I'm rightly. I think don't quote me on that, but I think he did. I think he's shopping in the foreign market because players are cheaper for me. Anyway, I think that's what he's looking in terms of value as well. But I could be wrong. We all see different things, don't we, James? So
Do you think that would be a gamble, though,
Damon?
Damon? Do you think? Sorry, Damon. Do you think that would be a gamble going down that route? Maybe going for a foreign centre half, or do you think, well, as you say, it's value for money? What do you think?
I think it's a gamble, but it could be a gamble worth paying off, because I've seen some foreign players, and when I've looked in the foreign leagues and I've watched foreign teams play, like say Borussia Dortmund, they've just let go this centre back, 21 he is. I wouldn't mind him at Boro. I think he's 6'5". He's something that we should be going for. And he's a French under-21 international, so I think that's the type that you want to be aiming for.
Okay, pal. David, I mean, that leaves potentially now at the minute still from previous quotes a 5, 10 and 11 shirt up for grabs. Do you think those shirts will be occupied by the end of the transfer window? And even if they are, do you think that's enough? Or do you think 3 is probably the limit of what we're going to be bringing in?
Yeah, I think 3 is probably going to be the limit. And I do expect them to come. Wilder, he's an ambitious manager, and Gibson seems to be backing him. So I would say 90% confident he will get those 3 signings in, providing that they are going to be good enough to slot straight into the first 11. And I think Wilder will be aware of that as well. Let's not just bring anybody in for the sake of anybody.
Yeah,
we've got McNair who can slip into the centre position if we need to. So it needs to be someone of quality. On that Jacob Greaves, I'm absolutely devastated that he decided to stay with Hull, because I think he's going to be an absolute fantastic player.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually surprised there was no lower league interest in the Premier League for him, with him being young, 21 and left-sided centre back. I think he's going to have a massive career. I just hope we didn't put all our eggs in one basket and have only now just decided to look elsewhere. I hope we already had 2 or 3 on that list in case Jacob Greaves never signed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. David Wilton, thanks for watching, pal. He said, do you guys think promotion is out of the question yet? Go on, Dave. Yeah, go on, mate.
Yeah, I think it's too early to say, really. I mean, you want to judge it by 10 to 15 games in. I'd say then, as I said earlier on in the show, you have a fair idea where you're at. For me, and it's about the players that we bring in the remaining 10 days of this window.
Yeah, and the thing is, David, it's going to be a strange season this year, because it's not just like international breaks here and there. You've got a month, November to December, where there's going to be no games, and then you can reassess then start up again after that. So I think it depends on where you are in that first break in November. And if you're within touching distance, even of the top 6, it's still going to be all to play for, because there's well over half the season still remaining.
100%, and you've got all your midweek cup games coming after the World Cup. If you get on a good run there, the likes of Norwich and the teams who came out the Premier League last season, they might have quite a few of the players that are away with international duty, and you don't know how they're going to return. Stuff like that could work in our favour. I expect us to be there and thereabouts. Yeah. Let's be honest. We finished 7th. Anything above that is where we want to be as a club.
Yeah. Well, Patrick Wheatley thinks that we're going to be mid-table this year, whereas Jamie Pell believes that the World Cup break might give us an opportunity to arrange deals for January without the distraction of the season, but I guess that's the same for most clubs. We'll return to matters on the pitch, though, now, boys, and on Saturday, it's a big game when the action returns to the Riverside, and it's Swansea City. And I suppose, Damon, the players have to use recent setbacks to fuel them for that game on Saturday, don't they? And use that as something to drive them on to get over this difficult start and get 3 points.
It is, and it's another tough game as well. We've had a tough run into the season, but as in any team, it's you take the games as they come. But Swansea, there are a threat, and obviously we've got a returning Boro face, haven't we? And Nathan Wood coming back here. So he'll no doubt want to prove a point to the manager. Why did we let him go? And I was surprised by that decision, to be honest. Why did we let him go when we needed a centre back? And but they have got some good players. I mean, Michael Lafembe tortured us last season. Joel Perot, that's just to name two. So I think it'll be a tough one. But if Wilder gets the tactics right, everything's spot on, and we like to attack at home, I think we'll pick up the 3 points.
Fingers crossed. David Jackson said that it's a must-win game Saturday. I mean, David, Swansea haven't had a great start of the season themselves. I think they're in 19th, just got a couple of points more than we have at the minute. So I suppose, similar to us, they're a team that's maybe not had the start of the season that they were hoping for.
Yeah. You could say the same with Norwich until the last 2 games, and then they've got back-to-back wins. So, when it's a must-win game, I think that's really too early to say. But you want to get a win, to get you going. It'll be a hard game. They'll dominate possession, but look, I think Wilder, what he's seen against Reading, if they don't come out the blocks really quickly and get the fans on board on Saturday, I think that'll show where we are as a club. So I expect us to come out, and I reckon we will win on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think take that on board there. What you're saying, Dave, you would fully expect, especially after what seemed to be a very, very slow-paced game on Saturday against Reading, where we'd never seem to get out the blocks at all. You would expect us to come out firing on Saturday, wouldn't you?
100%. And if he's talking about comments about players wanting an easy ride, I think you might see in the starting lineup who he was referring to on Saturday.
That's a fair point. Who do you think will be in the starting line? What do you think you'll go with on Saturday?
I think you'll see Dyke still back in there, and I think you'll see Fry out. Right, I think you might even see McGree out.
I mean, Damon, what do you think? Riley McGree, don't think there's any doubt about him in terms of he's a good footballer, but where do you see him fitting in at the moment? Because we know that he's not a direct replacement for Tav.
Yeah.
What do you think of Riley McGree, and has he done enough in the game so far this season to merit a place in that starting 11 on Saturday?
No, he hasn't. I don't think he's done enough. I think he's covered for Johnny Howson. I think that's what we bought him for in the first place. I don't think he's a Tav replacement for sure, but he's been playing there. And fair play to the boy, he's been given that role, and he's tried, but it's not good enough. And that's why hence we need extra bodies in that position. For me, though, I could see Munez coming in. I could see Crooks being in as well on Saturday, and definitely the Dyke still needs to be back in for Fry.
I've seen a lot of fans slating Dyke still recently. I can't understand it.
No,
it's a funny one to do it. Go on, mate. Go on.
Sorry, I mean, I just think he's a different class. Yeah, I know he's not a bullying defender, but as a ball-playing centre-half, I think he's everything that what Wilder's looking for in the system. And I think, arguably, overall, I think he's our best centre-half.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying.
I'm disagreeing.
I sometimes think, just personally, I feel as though he sometimes looks a little bit uncomfortable on the ball. I don't know, and that's just my impression. I sometimes feel as though he just looks a little bit hurried when he's got the ball and feels a little bit panicky. I don't know. That's just my impression. And I think, in fairness, the last couple of games, Lenihan's been copping a fair bit of criticism. I think he's probably been our best defender in the last 2 games. I certainly thought he was our best defender on Saturday at Reading. So
yeah.
So we all see a different game, as I said, don't we? I mean, I've seen Dykesdale in some of the home games this season, and he's all right coming out from the back, and he bombs forward, and I think that's what I was elaborating with David on. Like he's good at coming out from the back, and he knows how to pick a pass out. I think Dale Fry's slow and lethargic. When it comes to passing the ball out, I mean, he always goes across the back line and back over, sideways passing, a bit like the Boro of old, but we all have to just get on with it, unfortunately.
Well, David Jackson's hoping that our centre forwards could take inspiration from the huge George Camsell statue that's going up, and We're not going to say we're going to put a statue up with the striker that scores a goal at the weekend, but hopefully, like I say, there can be a few goals for the Boro on Saturday and get us those 3 points. So, boys, give us your predictions for Saturday's huge game now against Swansea City. Damon, I'll come to you first, mate.
I'm going to go 2-1 Boro with Munez to get a debut goal and Crooksy to score.
Ooh, debut goal for the Brazilian. Go on then, David, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going for a Boro win. I fancy 2-1 as well. I think both teams will be looking to get to attack the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it'll be quite an open game, won't it? I don't think Swansea are going to sit back there like to keep possession. I mean, they were probably one of the most impressive teams at the Riverside last season. For all, we beat them 1-0 in terms of the football. And I think Russell Martin, the manager's been saying at the minute, they've got a lot of things right, but it's just in the final third that they're not delivering at the moment. But they are a good team, aren't they?
They take risks as well from the back, don't they?
True. Well, you know what? We haven't won a game all season, lads, but everybody's coming in with Boro predictions for a win on Saturday. I've got David Jackson, Patrick Wheatley both gone 1-0. David Olsen's gone a 3-2. Liam Wilde's got Munez to get a double. So there you go. You can't knock Boro fans. They're always optimistic with regards to the predictions for the next game.
I think with the amount of results we predict every week, I think we would have been away with it, pulling away right now, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I think we're worse than David Prutton's predictions. I tell you, Boro should have won the league by November this season, but never mind. We live in hope. We live in hope, lads. Well, everybody, thanks out there for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching and contributing to it. And as always, my thanks go to Damon and David. It's greatly appreciated, lads. Thanks for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
No, appreciate it.
We'll be back next Monday night. Between now and then, if you keep up to date with things on Boro Fan TV, Joe Scott's preview of the match on Saturday will be out there later in the week. But from me, James Hutchinson, everybody at Boro Fan TV, all the best. Have a good week and up the Boro.
Up the Boro.
Up the Boro.